Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us on Daybreak Extra. Now it's time for us to take a look at the front pages of the national dailies, and promises, of course, to be really interesting. I forgot to mention that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has left the country, yesterday, I think, or today, to the UAE, talking about, United Arab Emirates, on official visit or official purpose. And hopefully we get to see a return, full return of business transaction when it comes to Nigeria and UAE interaction, because we know there was a lot of loss when it comes to trade and the trade relationship between Nigeria and that country due to the ban on visa, and it's still yet to be fully reignited to allow us back entry into that. And a lot of Nigerians have to rely on businesses there in order for their business to thrive. So one way or another, that ban definitely affected our own economy, but then hopefully we get to see a better outcome out of that result, and wish the president a safe travel back home. Now, starting by taking a look at the Weekend Trust today. Daily Trust definitely brings you a full packed newspaper that you could enjoy through Saturday through Sunday. A major story here is on the north-south cattle trade declines by 50%. What the livestock ministry can do to restore this situation, or the herders' confidence. This is the major story of the Weekend Trust, addressing the issue of livestock or cattle trade declines. And we know so far that there's been a lot of situation affecting this cattle decline, talking about the north and the south cattle trade, where it's saying that it is facing an existential threat, especially the northeastern part of Nigeria. And there is a call for, by stakeholders for urgent intervention to save the sector. Talking about some of the major problems, there is the cattle movement. We know how expensive it has become due to the increment of, the fuel pump price. That's the removal of fuel subsidy. The ripple effect of that made things really expensive. We've had multiple reports on that, where our reporters were covering on talking to these truck drivers, talking to these people that normally that is their job, moving of cattle from one region in Nigeria to another region. And one of the concerns is that the prices have not only doubled, but even tripled, to a point there's a quadruplet effect. And that is a really scary situation. So everything has increased the prices. We also have, just by festivities, poultries increased drastically, to a point where turkey was selling for 130 to 150,000 naira. Then imagine what cattle would be like. Also, there is another, complaint by these people saying our fortune has declined. That's one of the cattle market superintendent under the FICA Emirate Council in Telecom making that. There is also concern from Gombe Cattle Sellers Association. There is about 200 trucks leave Adamawa, so against the 500 trailers. Now, from Adamawa State, which are known to be also breathers, the cattle trade is something they survive on. One of the major, biggest, I know they have one of the largest international cattle market in Adamawa State, due to the border that they share with Chad. But then this whole thing has affected them, saying before we get to even move 500 trailers, to the states, but then to different states, but then now it's about 200. So that's not even a half reduction, but even lower than that, which is not good for a country that is, one of our strengths is the agriculture, talking about both in plants and also animal rearing. That is something that has always been the strength of especially the northern part of the country, and they've used this for years to also give their own quota to Nigeria's economy, to boost the economy. There's also the Borno supply crashes to about 50 trailer another concern from Borno. There is Bauchi people making their own concerns, talking about Soro, Azare, Alkaleri in and even Bauchi state, and how far these things have really affected them. Taraba transports only 300 trailers left Right now, they are saying that over 300 trailers left 10 major markets to southern part of the country on a weekly basis. And now there's only a transportation of 30 trailers. That is really scary. That is not even up to like say 40% of what it used to be. So supply has dropped. Supply to Lagos have dropped. 6 states in southeast, south get about 60 trucks daily. Now we all know the whole problem. Like if at all there is no major supply, then demand become high, and then these things, due to the scarcity, becomes really expensive. So this whole thing is really scary. The Minister of Livestock and Development, Idi Mukhtar Maiha, we've seen him make some move. We've seen him visited the governor of Adamawa State, and hopefully we get to see a quick move to save the livestock market and the sector. It's saying also there is why we migrated to Cameroon. East African herders are saying Fintiri calls for removal of obstacles to the livestock trade, and how cattle resource political sharply divides Nigeria. Now, honestly, the deep dive of this, and let's not even forget, one of the major concerns to this is insecurity. These are things that are being carried by road, and there's a lot of insecurity and blockage by these bandits and terrorists, and stealing all these cattle, taking them. So there's a lot of things when it comes to the livestock sector that really needs a quick intervention, and that's what the Daily Trust have done. Full pack in the Weekend Trust. So make sure you pick this and understand the deep dive of what Nigeria is losing, which is it's really large when it comes to the livestock sector that could honestly really boost our economy. Now, away from that, below that we see female MCs are the future. This is according to Khadija Sanusi Bashir. It's a feature story. We get to see women breaking barriers, doing male-dominated jobs. So yes, she is giving her own quota, and we are seeing women doing great in the DJ or MC job. Away from that, we see Emiirship tussle. Appeal court sets aside order nullifying Emir Sanusi's appointment. That you find on page 25. 2024 budget questions over 25% capital components performance. This story you find on page 34. Inside bandits hideout, a journalist expedition through notorious camp. Now, of course, there's always a scare when journalists move to ask what is happening and why are you people, causing mayhem in the society. But yes, Trust TV did that, and they said, we were pushing for this, but there needs to be clarity. And if at all we don't get to talk to these people, why should they be even, peace talk with them? So now we've seen Kaduna State government make move. We've seen Borno State government made move a long time ago about getting these people to repent and submit their arms and ammunitions and all of that. So journalists should definitely get an in-depth of what is happening. What is behind the mindset of a criminal would definitely help us find a better solution. Now, beside these stories, we're seeing Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf and Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi, the second in Kano yesterday, so we know where his stake is at. Now, talking also about politics, this is my problem with some politicians. Let me not generalize, but honestly, the major problem in the world right now are politicians. One of the major problems, because we saw how a governor that is just there to spend 4 to 8 years just decided to change everything, and then another governor that is supposed to spend 4 to 8 years coming to rechange. So it's like playing with the life of people, playing with an old tradition or a state, playing with a historical state and even emirates, and now it is causing chaos among two people that should all be united. These are all family members. And it breaks my heart that this is happening. So honestly, I think there should be some kind of rule for a politician that is not really coming to stay for long to come and just cause chaos in a place where they're supposed to just come and make growth, not drag people back. It breaks my heart with what is going on in Kano State. A lot of division happening at a time where we all need to be united. Away from that, we see hardship, teenage pregnancies forcing Akwa Ibom girls out of school. That is really scary. There needs to be a lot of sensitization and perhaps assistance and creation of knowledge and helping them with vocational skills to make a girl child know that you are supposed to, care for yourself and not allow someone take advantage of you at a young age. Beside that, of course, what is happening in the USA, Trump sentenced to unconditional discharge over hush money. Still unraveling, of course. We would have to wait and see what the outcome and the reaction of the Trump and his legal team would be. Now, these are some of the stories that you'd find on the Weekend Trust Saturday, so make sure you pick a copy. Now, moving on to the Guardian newspaper, where the major story is on 2027. It says, my focus is to deliver on mandates given to me by Oyo State people. Now, this is according to Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State. Now, we've seen him make a few pointers addressing issues, saying that Nigeria cannot have only one party rule. And honestly, it does not make even any sense. It would definitely be, suspicious if an entire party or one party rules the entire country. Of course, it would be really suspicious. We saw how, USA had a really huge division. Even our own African countries, we know how people have different thoughts and mindsets and policies and, how they view things. So there is no way everybody would want to vote or support one party. So now he's saying his focus is, of course, to deliver on the mandate, which it should be. We're expecting every governor to deliver on the promises that they made to the people, every legislator to deliver on the promises they made for their people to vote for them. It is different if you were appointed, but then still we're going to hold the person that gave you that job, because the person that gave you was, voted for. So we expect that, and 2025 is that time where governors need to wake up and start thinking of how states should generate their own revenue, because we know there's a lot of potential. Most of the things they rely on is taxes paid by the people. But apart from that, what else do we have? Government should also look for investments and create companies, revive old companies that have died. I think some of them have even their job cut out for them, because we know states like Katsina, used to have the textile. We know Kaduna also. So I think they should go back and just try to make a lot of reform and adjustment to make sure they boost that. We've seen, I would definitely have to give kudos to the Lagos State governor, where he takes advantage of a lot of things. There was a really great statistics that was done during the Dirty December period, and it was said that the Lagos State garnered a lot of money because of people flocking in and out of Lagos. We know that we are good with parties, we are good with tourism, especially when it comes to, basically some things that we have, cultures. Those are things that we are really good at, Nigerians. So I think we should take advantage of that, and that would help. So states like Oyo should find their own strength. States like Kano should find their own strength, which is trade. The governor should explore that, and every state, I think, have that. So let's make sure to dive into looking for the great solution, so that every state can even stand on its own and then give back to the federation, and Nigeria, voila, would become great. Away from that, but then still talking on Makinde, it says that Makinde approves selection of new Alaafin. Hopefully, we wish him a great reign. An obituary on comrade meritocracy. All right, or meritocracy rather. I beg your pardon. That's an inside stuff that you'd find on the Guardian newspaper. Top of the page there, we see what Tinubu needs to do to reset governance. That's according to Adebayo. You'd have to take a look to hear what Adebayo has to say on that. Okoya at 85, a legacy of business, religion, and philanthropy. Now, these are some of the stories that you'd find on the Guardian newspaper this morning. Now, moving on to Saturday Punch. Major story is on a wave of terror where there is new attacks plunge 10 states into anxiety. ISWAP suspects arrested during bomb training in Ilesa, Osun State. Oh, that is really scary. I mean, we've been having a lot of bomb scares in the southeast, where there's been a lot, allegations on, government saying this is the ESN, IPOP people doing that, and we know of the banditry, terrorism, Boko Haram, Lakurawa, and other group in the northern parts of the country. But then now the southwest are even getting other people, are getting ISWAP suspects over there. It's really scary. We don't want insecurity hitting every part of Nigeria. We're trying to contain the regions that even have, and it's scary that this is happening in our country. A lot needs to be done. We saw the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, granted an interview with the Al Jazeera network, and honestly, I have a lot to say on that one, but I think we'll spare it for another time. But then one of the major things is a concern about how for 15 years there are people that are sponsoring finance, there's terrorism, and Nigeria's security is yet to even get one person amongst the sponsors. We saw how there was a post of about 30-something people, their faces saying that these people are wanted criminals, and they were taken to court and they were released, saying that there was no enough evidence. But then he spoke about how for 15 years there is sponsors because there will be a peace deal and these people would surrender their weapons and stop. And then later on, there is another resurrection of another group of Boko Haram. Now, Borno State governor is still fighting it because we've seen them killed soldiers recently in Borno State. So it is really scary that we are going forward. We'll take one step forward and we retract and take 2 steps backwards on security matters. It's really crippling Nigerian economy. A lot needs to be done. Even though General Christopher Musa was saying that he feel the UN should, intervene, I feel like we need to start trying to fix our own problem. Now, he's saying, of course, there need to be an intelligence channel because they feel most of the sponsors come from outside Nigeria. But we can start. Its channel starts, if it's from outside Nigeria, then there is a linkage that we can find here. I think we're over relying on, international organizations to come help Nigeria. The UN are still they have not been able to stop the Russia-Ukraine war that is over 2 years. They've not been able to stop the Palestinians, or talking about the Hamas and Israel war yet. So us relying on them, it's like, honestly, I do not even give any expectations on that. But then we hope we get to see an end to insecurity and terror in Nigeria because it's really scary and it needs to stop ASAP. He also pointed out a bit of concern about these NGOs, where he says some NGOs are even aiding, that's allegedly aiding in pushing weapons or even saving weapons for these people. So we as our own individual, we need to also make sure we pay attention to what is happening in our environment and do our own self-policing to give our own quota to our own country. And hopefully Nigeria will get to a place where we will be, security or insecurity free. Amen to that. Now, moving on from that story, also the Punch is talking about the Kano tussle, where Emir Sanusi secures victory against Bayero as appeal court upturns Justice Liman's verdict. Still ongoing battle there. Would have to wait and see how that pans out. My 3-year-old son's ear affected by Lagos teachers' repeated slaps. Now, this is according to the mother. We saw what happened, I think, in Christ Method's school, where a 3-year-old child, what would a 3-year-old child do for a teacher? I know that you have to go to teach in school. You learn how to be really tolerant, especially when you're dealing with not even teenagers. I mean, that would be secondary school. When you're dealing with kids, when you're dealing with, babies, a 3-year-old definitely does not even know what he's doing. I think that was really extreme, especially when you take a hand of an adult to a 3-year-old child ear. It's really scary, and definitely that person should be punished. And the mother is complaining about what that child went through. Away from that, we see Esu, not Satan. Traditional worshippers battle bias and seek to change stereotype. All right, there is freedom of religion, one of the constitutional rule in Nigeria. So I think if you don't understand something, you should not insult it. And that is one thing that, this generation has become really tone deaf to. You go on social media and a post comes in, and under the post you see people dragging each other's beliefs, and there is so much lack of respect. I feel parents need to do more in teaching their children to respect other people's religion, especially if you do not know about it. Now, if you want to have a deeper dive, then we need this generation to be more keen on knowledge. You should be more enthusiastic, more probing when it comes to knowing things. So it would be good for you to go to these people and understand what their religion is all about, why they believe in a particular thing. I mean, that would get you to understand, and you'd have a better mindset and an open mindset when it comes to, at least you might not believe it, but you get to understand and respect other people's belief and religion. Away from that, kingmakers protest as Makinde appoints the new ally fin, in that place. That's talking about Ibadan. And honestly, I just feel they should just go take a deep dive into it and make sure they don't politicize, the kingship in the states, because back to what I'm saying, politicians should not interrupt and do things that they will just leave the office and leave the people of that place to suffer for their actions. Beneath the headmaster, we see corruption responsible for Africa's debt burden. This is according to the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo. Now, talking about the former president, or debt burden rather, we've seen how our debt burden has really increased, especially in Nigeria. African countries have been making a lot of concerns as well. We've seen a lot of situation happening in Kenya past election. And now we saw the EFCC or international security with, I think, the USA or UK bringing back money of the alleged corruption of the Zani Madike, that's the former minister of the country. And my fear is that money is huge. We're talking about over $50 million. And if at all we could just carry the money and just settle some of our debt, at least, I think it would help. But then if the money comes in, who monitors the money? It's like taking it from one alleged thief to putting it in a place where there are a lot of wolves that could really dive into it. We hope that money is put into good use, especially debt servicing. Also, we have subscribers demand telecom service overhaul ahead of tariff hike. And then men interested in dating me shouldn't be scared. That's according to Kafi. Of course, you should not be scared of a woman just because she's successful. If you adore her, then there should not be a competition between two lovers. These are some of the stories that you find on Saturday Punch, and due to time constraint, of course, these are the front pages that we could take a look at. A lot is happening in the country and even outside, so make sure you pick a copy of newspaper and read and understand what is happening around you. I always push for reading to understand and have smart conversations on how we can better the world in general. Now with that, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll open the phone line to hear from you, so stay with us.